The moment before everything changes. Hello, beautiful souls, and welcome to MindSoul Audio. Wherever you are listening from right now, I wish you a peaceful heart, a calm mind, and a quiet moment to return to yourself. Maybe you are listening before sleep. Maybe you are sitting alone after a long day. Maybe you clicked on this video without fully knowing why, only feeling that something in the title was quietly speaking to you. If that is true, take a slow breath. Let your shoulders soften, relax your jaw, and for the next little while, allow yourself to stop trying so hard. You do not need to fix your entire life tonight. You do not need to have every answer. You do not need to become a stronger, wiser, more perfect version of yourself before you are allowed to rest. You only need to be here, because today's journey is not another lesson in self-improvement. It is not about forcing positive thoughts. It is not about chasing signs, controlling outcomes, or trying to become worthy of the life you desire. This journey is about something quieter, something deeper, something that often happens long before the outside world begins to change. The title of today's journey is, When Your Soul is Ready, This Book Will Show Up. At first, those words may sound mysterious. After all, books do not search for people. They wait silently on shelves. They do not move. They do not speak. And yet, there are moments in life when a book, a sentence, a conversation, or even a video appears at exactly the right time. Not when you were curious, not when you were comfortable, but when some hidden part of you was ready. A sentence touches a wound you never explained to anyone. A paragraph answers a question you had been carrying for years. A video appears on your screen, and something inside you whispers, "Stay." Most people call that coincidence. But sometimes coincidence is only the surface of a deeper alignment. The real question is not whether the book found you. The real question is, why are you finally able to receive it now? Because the same words can mean nothing to you one year and change your life the next. The words did not change. The page did not change. The world did not change first. You did. And that is where real transformation begins. Not when life suddenly becomes easier, not when every problem disappears, but when something inside you becomes ready to see differently. If you have been tired of doubting yourself, if you have been exhausted from trying to control every outcome, if you have practiced self-development, manifestation, meditation, or healing, but still wondered why nothing truly changed, please hear this clearly. There is nothing wrong with you. You are not broken. You are not behind. You are not failing. You may have simply been becoming ready. Ready to stop fighting life. Ready to listen differently. Ready to trust the quiet wisdom that has been buried beneath fear, comparison, and exhaustion. So as we begin, do not force yourself to believe anything. Just notice what resonates. Notice what softens something inside you. Notice what feels strangely familiar. Because sometimes truth does not arrive as a loud revelation. Sometimes it arrives as a whisper. And somehow, that whisper feels like coming home. So take another slow breath, settle in, and let us begin. Chapter 1. The Strange Timing of Certain Books. Have you ever noticed that some things only become meaningful when you are finally ready to understand them? A book can sit beside your bed for months, maybe even years. You see it every day. You move it from one place to another. You tell yourself you will read it someday, but that day never comes. Until one evening, after a conversation that leaves you quiet, after a disappointment you could no longer explain away, after a season of pretending you were fine, you reach for it. Not because someone told you to, not because you planned it, but because something in you suddenly says, now. You open the first page, you read a few lines, and for a moment, the room becomes still. The words are simple, nothing dramatic, nothing loud, and yet, they seem to touch a place inside you that no one else has been able to reach. It feels almost impossible. How could a sentence written years ago understand the exact ache you are carrying today? How could a book that has been silent for so long suddenly feel alive? This is the strange timing of certain books. They do not always arrive when you are looking for them. They arrive when you have become the kind of person who can finally receive them. Carl Jung, the Swiss psychiatrist, gave a name to experiences like this. He called it synchronicity, a meaningful coincidence, a moment when something in the outer world seems to reflect something happening in your inner world. Not as random noise, not as a magical command, but as a quiet alignment between what you are living and what you are now ready to see. Synchronicity does not ask you to abandon reason. It does not mean every event is a secret message. It simply invites you to pay attention when life feels unusually precise. A title appears after you silently asked a question. A stranger says the exact words you did not know you needed. A video shows up on your screen at the moment you were too tired to keep pretending. From the outside, it may look ordinary. Just a book, just a sentence, just an algorithm, just a coincidence. But inside you, something recognizes it, and that recognition matters. Because meaning is not only in the object itself. Meaning is born in the meeting point between the message and the person who is finally ready to hear it. This is why the same book can feel empty in one season and life-changing in another. The page did not become wiser. The ink did not become more powerful. The teaching did not suddenly improve. What changed was your capacity to receive. And that capacity is shaped by life, by the pain you survived, by the questions you carried, by the nights when you thought nothing was happening, but something in you was quietly rearranging itself. Every disappointment changed what you were able to notice. Every ending changed what you were willing to admit. Every moment of loneliness taught you to listen more deeply. So when the book finally appears, it does not feel like information. It feels like recognition. That is the difference between reading with the mind and receiving with the soul. The mind asks, "What does this mean?" The soul asks, "Why does this feel familiar?" The mind collects ideas. The soul recognizes truth. And when recognition happens, you do not need anyone to convince you. Something in your body already knows. A quiet breath, a sudden stillness, a feeling that the words are not pushing you forward, but gently calling you back to yourself. This is why certain books feel as if they choose you. Not because the book has power over your life, but because it meets you at the exact threshold where your old identity is beginning to loosen and a new way of seeing is ready to emerge. Before that moment, the same wisdom may have sounded too simple, too strange, too uncomfortable, too easy to dismiss. But once life has softened you, once control has exhausted you, once comparison has wounded you enough, once self-doubt has become too heavy to carry, the same truth lands differently. A truth offered too early often sounds like noise. A truth received at the right time feels like freedom. And maybe that is why you are here now. Not because this video is special, not because this moment needs to be explained as fate, but because something in you may no longer be available for the old way of living. The part of you that only observes life from a distance is getting tired. The part of you that waits for permission is beginning to wake up. The part of you that once believed everything had to be forced, controlled, or earned through suffering is starting to question whether there is another way. Maybe this is not an accident in the way the mind understands accidents. Maybe it is simply alignment, your attention meeting the message at the exact moment your inner world is ready to receive it. So do not rush to label this feeling. Do not make it bigger than it needs to be. And do not dismiss it too quickly. Just notice. Notice the timing. Notice the quiet pull. Notice the part of you that feels more awake than it did a few minutes ago. Because the beginning of transformation is often very subtle. It does not always come as a breakthrough. It does not always arrive as a sign. Sometimes it begins with a single page, a single sentence, a single moment of stillness. And suddenly, something inside you understands. You are not here by accident. You are here because you are ready to see something differently. But that brings us to a deeper question. If the answers were always around you, in books, in conversations, in silence, in repeated patterns, why could you not receive them before? Why does the same truth feel invisible in one season and undeniable in another? To understand that, we must look beyond mystery. We must look at the way the mind filters reality, because your soul may be ready, But your brain has always had a gatekeeper, and that gatekeeper has been deciding every moment of your life what you are allowed to notice. Chapter 2. The Filter of the Soul, Why You Couldn't Receive It Before. If the answers were always around you, why couldn't you receive them before? Why can the same sentence feel ordinary in one season and unforgettable in another? Why can a book sit quietly in your life for years and only become powerful after something inside you has changed? The answer is not only spiritual, it is also deeply human. Your brain is not designed to show you everything. Every second, your senses receive far more information than your conscious mind can process. Sounds, colors, faces, memories, signals, possibilities, warnings. If you noticed everything at once, life would become overwhelming. So the mind filters, it selects, it highlights, it ignores. It brings some things into awareness and lets other things disappear into the background. One way to understand this is through something often called the Reticular Activating System, or the RAS. You can think of it as a gatekeeper of attention. It helps decide what feels important enough to notice. This is why, after you learn a new word, you suddenly begin hearing it everywhere. This is why, after you start thinking about a certain car, that car seems to appear on every road. The word was already there, the cars were already there, but now your attention has been trained to recognize them. The same thing happens with ideas, with opportunities, with healing, with love, with possibility. You do not experience life only as it is. You experience life through what your mind, your memories, your nervous system, and your identity are prepared to notice. And this is important, because it means you were not foolish for missing the lesson before. You were not weak. You were not failing. You were seeing through the filter available to you at that time. Maybe someone once told you, just let go, and you understood the words. But inside, your body felt unsafe, because to you, letting go did not feel peaceful. It felt dangerous. It felt like losing control. Maybe someone once said, trust yourself, but an older part of you whispered, how can I trust myself after everything I have gotten wrong? Maybe you read a sentence about self-worth and wanted to believe it, but a wound inside you quietly answered, if I am worthy, why did they leave? So the truth did not land, not because the truth was false, and not because you were incapable, but because the deeper part of you was still protecting an old identity. This is why information alone rarely changes a life. You can read about peace while your body still expects danger. You can study abundance while your mind still searches for lack. You can repeat affirmations while a hidden part of you still feels unworthy of the words coming out of your mouth. That does not mean the practices are useless. It means the receiver matters. The state you are in determines how deeply the message can enter. A sentence heard from survival becomes advice. The same sentence heard from readiness becomes revelation. Think about this. Maybe years ago you read something simple like, you are allowed to rest. At the time, it sounded nice, soft, almost forgettable. You closed the book and moved on. But then life happened. You pushed yourself too hard. You tried to be strong for too long. You carried responsibilities no one saw. You smiled while feeling empty. You kept going because stopping felt impossible. Then one night, exhausted in a way sleep could not fix, you read the same sentence again. You are allowed to rest, and suddenly, your eyes fill with tears. Not because the sentence became deeper, but because you did. Your life gave the words a place to land. That is the filter changing. That is the soul becoming ready. And when this happens, you begin to see your past differently. You stop asking, why didn't I understand this sooner? And you begin to realize, I was still becoming the person who could. There is so much relief in that, because many people blame themselves for not changing faster. They think they should have known better. They think they wasted time. They think healing should have happened the moment they learned the right concept. But growth does not always happen when the mind understands. Sometimes growth waits until the nervous system feels safe enough to allow a new truth in. Before you can receive love, you may have to see how long you have confused anxiety with connection. Before you can receive peace, you may have to recognize how addicted you have been to urgency. Before you can receive a new life, you may have to notice the old identity that has been quietly recreating the same patterns, and this noticing can be uncomfortable. Because once you see the filter, you begin to understand how much it has shaped your world. You may realize that not every delay was punishment. Some delays were preparation. Not every closed door was rejection. Some closed doors were protection. Not every unanswered prayer meant you were forgotten. Some unanswered prayers were asking you to become spacious enough to hold what you were asking for. This does not mean every painful thing was secretly good. Pain should not be romanticized, but it does mean your story may contain more intelligence than you once believed. Even the seasons that felt wasted may have been changing your capacity to see. So be gentle with the version of you who could not receive this sooner. That version was not blind. That version was surviving. That version was trying to stay safe with the tools it had. And now, something is beginning to shift. You are noticing what once passed you by. You are hearing what once sounded too simple. You are recognizing the difference between forcing an answer and becoming available to one. This is a powerful turning point. Because the moment you understand that perception is filtered, you also understand that perception can be refined. Your attention can be retrained. Your nervous system can learn safety. Your identity can soften. And when that happens, the world does not need to become completely new. You begin to notice the doors that were already there, the choices that were already possible, the guidance that was already whispering, the book that had been waiting, the sentence that finally reached you. But there is one thing that makes this process difficult, one thing that tightens the filter. One thing that keeps the nervous system from relaxing enough to receive: control. When life has hurt you, control can feel like protection. You begin to manage everything: your image, your emotions, your future, other people's reactions, every possible outcome. At first, it looks responsible. It looks mature. It looks like strength. But slowly, control becomes a cage. And the more tightly you try to hold life together, the more exhausted your soul becomes. So before we speak about surrender, before we speak about gratitude, before we speak about consciously creating a new reality, we must look honestly at the hidden addiction many sensitive, wounded, self-aware people carry: the addiction to control. Because sometimes, the thing blocking your intuition is not the absence of wisdom. It is the exhaustion of trying to make life obey your fear. Chapter 3. The Illusion of Control. The Anatomy of Exhaustion. Control often begins as protection. It does not appear in your life as an enemy. It appears as responsibility, as preparation, as being careful, as making sure nothing goes wrong again. At first, control feels intelligent. You plan ahead. You think through every possible outcome. You try to predict what people will say. You rehearse conversations before they happen. You manage your emotions so no one can accuse you of being too sensitive. You make yourself useful, reliable, strong, easy to accept. And somewhere along the way, you begin to confuse control with safety. You tell yourself, if I can just think far enough ahead, I won't be hurt. If I can just do everything perfectly, I won't be rejected. If I can just understand every sign, every mood, every shift in energy, I can finally relax. But the relaxation never comes, because control is not peace. Control is a contract with fear, and fear always asks for more planning, more checking, more proving, more explaining, more overthinking, more emotional labor, until your life becomes less about living and more about preventing something from going wrong. This is the hidden exhaustion many people carry. Not just physical tiredness, not just needing a weekend off, but the deeper exhaustion of always being on guard, always scanning, always calculating, always preparing for pain before it arrives. This state has a name: hypervigilance. It is what happens when your system becomes trained to look for threat, even when no immediate danger is present. A delayed text message becomes a possible rejection. A change in someone's tone becomes evidence that you did something wrong. A quiet room becomes uncomfortable because your mind needs something to solve. A moment of peace becomes suspicious because part of you has learned that peace never lasts. So instead of resting, you monitor. Instead of trusting, you analyze. Instead of receiving life, you manage it. And the saddest part is this: many people who live this way are not trying to control others. They are trying to protect themselves. They are trying to avoid becoming helpless again. They are trying to make sure the past does not repeat itself. So if this is you, please do not shame yourself for it. Your need for control may have once been the only way you knew how to survive. Maybe you had to read the room early in life. Maybe you learned that love could disappear without warning. Maybe mistakes were punished. Maybe your emotions were too much for the people around you. Maybe uncertainty felt dangerous because life taught you that safety could be taken away suddenly. So your mind adapted. It became sharp. It became alert. It became excellent at noticing patterns. It helped you survive. But what once protected you may now be imprisoning you. Because a nervous system built around control does not know how to receive. It only knows how to defend. And when your body is constantly preparing for danger, your inner world changes. Stress hormones like cortisol can stay elevated. The amygdala, the part of the brain involved in detecting threat, can become more reactive. The prefrontal cortex, the part associated with reflection, decision-making, and emotional regulation, may become harder to access under pressure. This is why chronic stress can make you feel less creative, less intuitive, less connected to yourself. Not because your wisdom disappeared, but because survival mode became too loud. Intuition speaks quietly, fear shouts. And when fear has been running your inner world for too long, even your soul's guidance can feel distant. You may ask, why can't I hear myself anymore? Why don't I know what I want? Why do I feel disconnected from my own life? But the truth may be simpler than you think. You cannot easily hear your inner voice while every part of you is bracing for impact. You cannot receive inspiration while your body believes it is unsafe. You cannot co-create with life while treating life as something you must constantly defend against. This is the illusion of control. It promises certainty, but it creates exhaustion. It promises protection, but it keeps you trapped in anticipation. It promises peace once everything is handled. But there is always one more thing to handle, one more outcome to manage, one more person to please, one more version of yourself to perfect. And perfectionism is one of control's most convincing masks. It sounds noble. It says, I just have high standards. But beneath it, there is often a quieter fear. If I am not perfect, I may not be safe. If I am not impressive, I may not be chosen. If I make one mistake, everything could fall apart. So you keep polishing, editing, improving, proving. You turn your own life into a project that is never finished. Even healing becomes another performance. You try to meditate perfectly, manifest correctly, journal the right way, think the right thoughts, feel grateful enough, detach fast enough, become spiritual enough. And without realizing it, the same control that exhausted you in the outer world follows you into your inner work. You are no longer healing. You are managing the appearance of healing. And that is why nothing feels like relief. Because the soul does not open under pressure. The soul opens in safety, in honesty, in surrender. In the moment you finally stop using self-improvement as another weapon against yourself. There comes a point when the body cannot keep carrying the weight of constant control. It starts sending signals, tension in the chest, a tight jaw, shallow breathing, restless sleep, a mind that will not turn off, a heart that feels tired, even when nothing dramatic happened that day. These are not signs that you are weak. They are signs that something in you has been working too hard for too long. And maybe the most painful part is that no one sees it. From the outside, you may look capable, organized, disciplined, strong. But inside, you feel like you are holding the world together with invisible hands, afraid that if you loosen your grip, everything will collapse. But what if that fear is not the truth? What if the life you are trying so hard to control is not asking you to grip tighter? What if it is asking you to trust deeper? What if the exhaustion you feel is not a sign that you need to become stronger, but a sign that the old way of surviving can no longer carry you into the life your soul is ready for? Because control can build a cage, but it cannot build a life. It can prevent certain risks, but it cannot create true intimacy. It can help you survive uncertainty, but it cannot teach you how to feel free. Freedom begins when you realize that not everything has to pass through your fear before it is allowed to happen. Not every door must be forced open. Not every outcome must be predicted. Not every emotion must be explained. Not every season must be understood before it can be trusted. There is another way to live, a softer way, not passive, not careless, not naive, but open, present, participating with life instead of fighting against it. And this is where the next doorway appears, because the opposite of control is not chaos. The opposite of control is surrender. But surrender does not mean giving up. It does not mean becoming powerless. It does not mean letting life destroy you. True surrender is something far more courageous. It is the moment the soul stops fighting the river and begins to discover that the river was never trying to drown it. So ask yourself gently, what would happen if you opened your hands? What would happen if you stopped forcing every answer? What would happen if you released the belief that life can only support you when you are controlling every part of it? And what if, for the first time, you let go, and the river did not pull you under, but lifted you? Chapter 4. Surrender the moment the soul stops fighting. And maybe this is where surrender begins. Not in a dramatic moment, not with a grand spiritual realization, but in one quiet breath, when your tired soul finally whispers, "I cannot keep fighting life this way." For many people, the word surrender feels uncomfortable. It sounds like weakness. It sounds like giving up. It sounds like lying down in the middle of the road and letting life happen to you. But that is not true surrender. Giving up says, "I have no power." Surrender says, "I am no longer using fear as my only form of power." Giving up closes the heart. Surrender softens it. Giving up is collapse. Surrender is release. There is a difference between abandoning your life and releasing the illusion that every part of life must obey your timeline, your fear, and your limited understanding. For a long time, you may have believed that if you stopped controlling everything, everything would fall apart. So you held on. You held on to plans, to people, to expectations, to old versions of yourself, to outcomes that no longer felt alive, to pain that had become familiar. And maybe, beneath all of that holding, there was one quiet belief. If I let go, I will lose everything. But what if letting go does not mean losing what is meant for you? What if letting go only releases what was never able to grow with you? The ego does not like this question, because the ego's job is not to make you free. Its job is to keep you familiar. The ego says, stay where you can predict the pain. Choose what you already know. Hold on tighter. Do not trust what you cannot control. And for a while, that voice may sound wise, especially if life has hurt you before, especially if trust once led to disappointment, especially if you have had to rebuild yourself from moments no one else saw. So surrender is not easy. It is not a pretty concept. It is not a soft word you repeat while secretly still gripping everything inside. True surrender asks for honesty. It asks you to admit where fear has been pretending to be wisdom. It asks you to see where control has been pretending to be love. It asks you to notice where your constant effort has become a way of avoiding the unknown. And then, very gently, it asks you to open your hands. Not all at once, not recklessly, not without discernment, just enough to let life breathe again. Because when you stop resisting everything, something begins to change in the body. The jaw loosens, the breath deepens, the chest softens, the nervous system receives a different message. I am not in danger right now. I do not have to solve everything right now. I can be present with this moment without forcing it to become something else. This is where healing begins. Not because every problem disappears, not because surrender removes pain from life, but because resistance no longer consumes all your energy. Think of how much strength it takes to constantly argue with reality, to replay the past, to rehearse the future, to imagine every possible mistake, to hold your breath until life proves it can be trusted. That kind of inner resistance is exhausting. It turns every moment into something you must push against. Even peace becomes something you try to manage. Even happiness becomes something you fear losing. Even love becomes something you monitor. Surrender interrupts that pattern. It says, what is here right now? What is actually mine to carry? What can I choose in this moment, without trying to control the entire future? This is not passivity. This is presence. Surrender does not mean you stop taking action. It means your action is no longer driven only by panic. You still make choices. You still set boundaries. You still speak honestly. You still move toward what matters. But the energy underneath begins to change. Instead of forcing, you cooperate. Instead of chasing, you align. Instead of trying to bend life into proof that you are safe, you begin to build safety within yourself. And from that place, your choices become clearer. Because fear creates noise. Surrender creates space. Fear asks, what if everything goes wrong? Surrender asks, what if I can meet life one step at a time? Fear says, you must know the whole path before you begin. Surrender says, take the next honest step. Fear says, you are alone. Surrender says, life is allowed to support me in ways I cannot yet see. This is the moment the soul stops fighting, not because it no longer cares, but because it finally understands that constant resistance is not the same as strength. You can care deeply without gripping. You can desire something without worshipping the outcome. You can love someone without abandoning yourself. You can dream of a new life without hating the life that brought you here. That is surrender. It is the quiet shift from control to trust, from panic to presence, from self-protection to self-relationship. And perhaps, for the first time in a long time, you begin to realize life was never asking you to become harder. It was asking you to become more open. Not open in a naive way, not open in a way that ignores pain, but open enough to let something new arrive, open enough to receive, open enough to stop confusing struggle with worthiness. Because so much of what you have been asking for, peace, love, guidance, abundance, clarity, cannot enter a nervous system that believes everything must be earned through suffering. Some blessings do not need to be chased, they need to be allowed. Some answers do not need to be forced, they need to be heard. Some doors do not open because you push harder. They open when you stop standing in front of them, with the identity of someone who expects life to resist them. So take a slow breath here, not as a technique, not as another task, but as a small act of surrender. Let your shoulders drop, let your hands soften. Let the future be unknown for just a moment. You do not have to carry the entire river. You only have to stop fighting its current long enough to feel that it is moving. And maybe, just maybe, it has been moving you toward yourself all along. When resistance begins to dissolve, the heart becomes available again. And when the heart becomes available, one of the simplest forces in the human body begins to work differently. Gratitude, not as a performance, not as forced positivity, but as a biological doorway back into safety. And that is where we go next. Chapter 5. The Neuroplasticity of Gratitude. Gratitude is often misunderstood. Many people hear the word gratitude and immediately feel pressure. They think it means pretending everything is fine. They think it means ignoring pain. They think it means smiling through disappointment and calling it growth. But true gratitude is not denial. It is not pretending your wounds do not exist. It is not forcing yourself to be happy when your heart is tired. Real gratitude is much deeper than positive thinking. It is a way of training the nervous system to notice safety again. And for someone who has lived for a long time in fear, comparison, self-doubt, or control, that is not a small thing. That is a profound shift. Because when your nervous system is in survival mode, your attention becomes narrow. It looks for what is missing, what might go wrong, who might leave, what might fail, where you are behind, how you could be hurt again. This is not because you are negative. It is because your body is trying to protect you. A stressed nervous system does not search for beauty first. It searches for threat. It searches for evidence that danger is near. And if it does this long enough, the world can begin to feel smaller, colder, more hostile, less generous. Not because the world has only become dark, but because your system has become trained to scan for darkness. This is where gratitude becomes powerful, not as a spiritual performance, not as something you say because you are supposed to be a good person, but as a biological practice of attention. Gratitude gently asks the brain, what else is here? Not instead of the pain, alongside it. Yes, there may be uncertainty, but is there also breath? Yes, there may be grief, but is there also one person who was kind? Yes, there may be fear, but is there also a moment of warmth, a cup of tea, a quiet room, the softness of morning light, the fact that your heart has survived every day you once thought would break you? Gratitude does not erase reality. It expands reality. It reminds the nervous system that danger is not the only thing present. And when practiced consistently, this can begin to reshape the way the brain pays attention. This is the essence of neuroplasticity. The brain changes through repeated experience. What you repeatedly focus on becomes easier to notice. What you repeatedly practice becomes more familiar. What you repeatedly return to becomes a pathway. If you practice fear every day, fear becomes a familiar road. If you practice lack every day, lack becomes easier to see. If you practice comparison every day, your mind will keep finding evidence that you are not enough. But if you practice gratitude, slowly, gently, without forcing it, you begin building a different pathway. A pathway toward sufficiency, toward presence, toward safety, toward the quiet recognition that even here, even now, life has not completely abandoned you. This is why gratitude can change what force never could. Force says, I must make my life change before I can feel safe. Gratitude says, I can begin creating safety inside me before everything outside me is perfect. And that difference matters, because the body responds differently when it feels safe. The breath becomes deeper, the muscles soften, the heart rate may settle, the mind becomes less frantic. The body begins moving away from the constant emergency of fight or flight, and closer to the state of rest, repair, and connection. This is often associated with the parasympathetic nervous system, the part of you that helps you rest, digest, recover, open, receive. And when you are in that state, you do not see the same world in the same way. A calm nervous system can notice options that a panicked mind overlooks. A regulated body can make choices that survival mode cannot access. A grateful heart can receive goodness without immediately fearing its loss. This does not mean gratitude magically removes every challenge. It does not mean you will never feel anxious again. It does not mean pain disappears because you wrote 3 things in a journal. But it does mean you are training your system to stop treating life as only a battlefield. You are teaching your attention to become more complete, to see not only what hurts, but also what holds you. Not only what is missing, but also what remains. Not only what went wrong, but also what is still quietly supporting your becoming. And over time, this changes identity, because the person who practices gratitude does not simply collect pleasant thoughts. They slowly become someone who can recognize support, someone who can receive without guilt, someone who can notice enoughness before life becomes perfect, someone who no longer needs to wait for a miracle before feeling connected to life. This is where gratitude becomes a doorway into co-creation, because when you are always focused on lack, your actions often come from fear. You chase, you grasp, you compare, you force. But when gratitude begins to root in the body, your actions become different. You still move, you still create, you still desire, but you are no longer reaching from emptiness. You are responding from connection. and that changes the quality of everything. A grateful person is not passive. They are receptive. They are not pretending life is easy. They are training themselves to recognize that even in difficulty, life still contains threads of grace, and those threads matter. Because attention is creative. What you notice repeatedly begins to shape what you believe. What you believe repeatedly begins to shape who you become, and who you become begins to shape the reality you are able to participate in. So do not make gratitude another task to perform perfectly. Do not turn it into pressure. Do not use it to shame yourself for feeling pain. Start simply. One real thing, not 10 forced blessings. One true one. One breath. One lesson. One person. One moment of beauty. One reason your story is not over. Let it be small enough that your body can believe it. Because the nervous system does not need a speech. It needs evidence. Small evidence, repeated gently, again and again, until safety becomes more familiar than panic, until enoughness becomes more familiar than lack, until receiving becomes more familiar than bracing. And as gratitude begins to reshape your inner state, a deeper law becomes visible. Because gratitude is not the final destination. It is preparation. It prepares your body to hold a new identity. And identity is where reality begins to change. Not because you force the world to obey your wishes, but because the person you believe yourself to be determines what you notice, what you choose, what you allow, and what you keep recreating. So now we move into the invisible law behind every transformation. The truth that connects psychology, spirituality, and creation itself. Identity precedes reality. Chapter 6. Identity precedes reality. The invisible law. There is a quiet law behind every deep transformation. It does not begin with what you want. It begins with who you believe you are. Most people try to change their lives by changing the outside first. They try to get the relationship, get the money, get the recognition, get the opportunity, get the perfect sign that everything is finally working, and only then they believe they will feel safe, worthy, chosen, free. But transformation rarely works from the outside in. At the deepest level, life begins to change when identity begins to change. Because your identity is not just a label. It is the invisible instruction system behind your attention, your choices, your emotions, your boundaries, and your expectations. It tells you what feels possible, what feels dangerous, what feels familiar, what feels like you. This is why two people can stand in front of the same opportunity and experience it completely differently. One person sees a doorway, the other sees a threat. One person thinks, "This could change my life." The other thinks, "People like me do not get things like this." The opportunity is the same, but the identity receiving it is different, and that difference shapes reality. Not in a simplistic way, not because your thoughts magically control every event, but because who you believe yourself to be influences what you notice, what you choose, what you tolerate, what you avoid, and what you keep recreating. Neville Goddard spoke about this through what many call the law of assumption. The idea is simple but powerful. We do not only respond to life as it is, we respond to life through the assumptions we carry about ourselves and reality. If you assume, deep down, that you are always unwanted, you may enter relationships already searching for signs of rejection. If you assume you are behind, you may turn every success around you into evidence that you are failing. If you assume life is always against you, you may overlook the small openings that are quietly trying to support you. The assumption becomes a lens. The lens shapes perception. Perception influences action. Action creates patterns, and patterns begin to feel like destiny. This is how an old identity can quietly rebuild the same life again and again. Not because you are cursed, not because the world is punishing you, but because the inner story has not yet changed. The Hermetic tradition points toward a similar idea through the principle often called mentalism, the idea that mind, consciousness, and perception play a profound role in the way we experience reality. Whether you approach this spiritually or psychologically, the message is the same. Your inner world matters. Your state matters. Your self-concept matters. Because you do not move through life as a blank page. You move through life carrying a story about who you are. And life is constantly being interpreted through that story. This is why the phrase is often repeated. You do not attract what you want. You attract what you are. But let us say it more carefully. You do not simply attract what you want. You consistently move toward, notice, choose, and recreate what matches the person you believe yourself to be. That is the real power of identity. If you want love, but your identity is built around abandonment, you may unconsciously choose people who confirm the wound. If you want peace, but your identity is built around urgency, calm may feel uncomfortable. If you want abundance, but your identity is built around survival, receiving may feel unsafe. If you want freedom, but your identity is built around guilt, you may sabotage the very door that opens for you. This is not self-blame, it is self-awareness. And self-awareness is the beginning of co-creation, because once you can see the identity that has been shaping your reality, you are no longer trapped inside it unconsciously. You can begin to ask a new question. Not only, what do I want, but who would I need to become to receive this without fear? That question changes everything, because many people ask for a new life while still carrying the nervous system of the old one. They ask for love, but still expect betrayal. They ask for success, but still expect collapse. They ask for peace, but still believe struggle is the price of worthiness. They ask for guidance, but still do not trust themselves enough to follow it. So life gives them openings, but the old identity closes the door, not intentionally, not because they are weak, but because the unfamiliar can feel unsafe, even when it is good. This is why identity work is not about pretending. It is not about lying to yourself. It is not about standing in front of a mirror and repeating words your body cannot believe. True identity change is quieter. It begins with evidence, small evidence, repeated gently, again and again. A person who believes they are powerless does not become powerful by shouting, "I am powerful." They begin by making one honest choice, then another, then another. A person who believes they are unworthy does not become worthy by forcing confidence. They begin by no longer abandoning themselves in one small moment, then another, then another. A person who believes life cannot support them begins to change when they allow support in a form their body can actually receive. A kind word, a moment of rest, a small opportunity, a quiet yes, a quiet no. Identity is built through repeated inner agreements. Every time you choose differently, you tell your system, "This is who we are becoming now." And slowly, reality begins to respond differently, because you are moving through it differently. Your attention changes, your standards change, your emotional reactions change, your decisions change, your tolerance for old patterns changes. You stop chasing what confirms your wound. You stop calling chaos chemistry. You stop confusing struggle with purpose. You stop shrinking yourself to remain loyal to an identity that was built for survival, not freedom. And this is the heart of conscious co-creation. It is not sitting still and waiting for life to magically deliver everything you desire. It is becoming internally aligned with the life you are asking to participate in. It is meeting life as a different version of yourself. Not perfect, not fearless, not fully healed, but honest enough to stop worshipping the old story. You begin to say, "I may have been rejected, but rejection is not my identity. I may have failed, but failure is not my name. I may have been hurt, but pain is not the whole truth of who I am. I may have survived through control, but I am allowed to live through trust." This is when reality begins to feel less fixed, not because the external world disappears, but because your relationship with it changes. And when your relationship with life changes, your choices become new, your perception becomes new, your energy becomes new, your future becomes less imprisoned by your past. So perhaps the book did not arrive to give you a secret formula, Perhaps it arrived to ask you one question. Who are you willing to become now? Not someday. Not when every wound is gone. Not when every fear has disappeared. Now, in this breath, in this moment, in this small decision to stop identifying with the version of you that only knew how to survive. Because identity precedes reality. The self you accept as true becomes the world you unconsciously build around yourself. And when that self begins to change, the world you are able to recognize, receive, and create with begins to change as well. But here is the beautiful truth. You do not need a book to give you power. You do not need a teacher to hand you worth. You do not need a sign to prove that your life is allowed to begin. Sometimes, the book only appears to show you what was already there. It does not create the light. It removes the dust from the mirror. And that is where we go next. Chapter 7. The book as a mirror, it doesn't teach. It reveals. And maybe this is why certain books feel so powerful. Not because they give you something you did not have, but because they reveal something you forgot was yours. A true book does not stand above you. It does not say, "I am wise and you are empty." It does not make you dependent on its pages. It does not ask you to worship the author, the teacher, the method, or the words. A true book meets you like a mirror, quiet, still, honest. It reflects back what has always been moving beneath the surface of your life. The courage you buried under self-doubt, the intuition you ignored because fear was louder, the tenderness you hid because the world taught you to look strong, the wisdom you questioned because no one around you could validate it, the power you gave away because you were waiting for permission to trust yourself. This is why the right book can feel so intimate. It does not feel like information. It feels like recognition. A sentence appears on the page, and suddenly, something inside you says, "Yes, that is what I have been feeling. That is what I could not name. That is what my soul has been trying to tell me." And in that moment, the book is no longer just a book. It becomes a clean surface where you can finally see yourself without the dust of fear. Because over time, self-doubt becomes dust. Comparison becomes dust. Shame becomes dust. The opinions of people who did not understand you become dust. The pain of being overlooked becomes dust. The fear that you are too late, too broken, too sensitive, too difficult, too far behind. All of it settles over the mirror of the self. And after a while, you stop seeing who you are. You only see the dust. You begin to think the dust is your identity. You say, "I am anxious. I am not enough. I am unlucky. I am always behind. I am hard to love. I am not one of the people life works out for." But these are not your deepest truths. They are layers. They are conclusions your nervous system formed while trying to protect you. They are stories written during seasons when survival mattered more than freedom. And a true book does not shame those stories. It gently questions them. It asks, is this really who you are? Or is this who you became while trying not to be hurt again? That question alone can begin to change a life, because so many people try to transform by adding more knowledge, more techniques, more rules, more routines, more pressure. But sometimes transformation is not addition. Sometimes transformation is removal, removing the belief that you must earn rest, removing the belief that love must be chaste, removing the belief that your worth depends on being chosen, removing the belief that control is the only way to stay safe, removing the belief that your past has the final authority over your future. The book does not create your power. It removes the noise that made your power hard to feel. This is why the sentence matters so much. The book did not change you, it revealed you. It revealed the part of you that was still alive beneath exhaustion, the part that still believed in meaning, the part that still wanted to trust life, even after life disappointed you, the part that still knew there was another way to live, not as a passive observer, not as someone waiting for fate to decide, but as someone willing to participate, to listen, to choose, to align, to become. The book becomes a mirror because it returns responsibility to you without blaming you. It does not say, "Everything is your fault." It says, You are more involved in your life than you were taught to believe. That is a very different message. Blame makes you collapse. Responsibility brings you back into your body. Blame says, you caused your pain. Responsibility says, you can begin responding differently now. Blame keeps you trapped in shame. Responsibility opens a door. And this is where many people misunderstand spiritual growth. They think awakening means escaping the human experience. Never feeling fear, never doubting, never grieving, never wanting, never struggling. But real awakening is not the removal of humanity. It is the return of presence. It is the moment you stop abandoning yourself in the middle of your own life. It is the moment you stop waiting for a perfect future version of yourself before you start living with dignity now. It is the moment you realize that your sensitivity was never the problem. Your sensitivity only became painful when it had no place to belong. Your longing was never the problem. Your longing only became heavy when you believed it meant you were incomplete. Your desire was never the problem. Your desire only became suffering when you attached your worth to whether it arrived. The book does not ask you to become someone else. It asks you to stop mistaking your wounds for your identity. It asks you to remember that beneath every role, every fear, every mask, every performance, there is a self that has not been destroyed, only covered, only forgotten, only waiting. And maybe this is why the right words can feel like a homecoming, because they do not pull you away from yourself. They bring you closer. They do not give you a new soul. They help you recognize the one that has been carrying you all along. So if this book, this message, this moment has stirred something in you, do not rush to turn it into another project. Do not immediately ask, what do I do now? For once, simply let yourself receive. Let yourself feel what it is like to be reminded of your own depth, your own choice, your own inner authority. Because the purpose of a mirror is not to make you dependent on the reflection. The purpose of a mirror is to help you see clearly enough to walk away differently. And that is where this journey now leads. Not back into more theory, not into more searching, but toward the quiet threshold where every true transformation must eventually arrive, the moment of choice. Chapter 8. The threshold of a new beginning. There comes a moment when learning must become living. A moment when the book closes, the video ends, the music fades, the voice becomes silent, and you are left with yourself. Not the self you present to the world, not the self that tries to seem fine, not the self that has learned how to explain, perform, please, and protect. Just you, the one who has been listening beneath the words, the one who knows that something inside has been shifting, the one who can no longer pretend that the old way of living feels honest. This is the threshold. A threshold is not the whole path. It is not the destination. It is not proof that everything will suddenly become easy. A threshold is simply the place where one way of being ends and another begins. And most thresholds are quieter than people expect. They do not always come with thunder. They do not always come with a sign. Sometimes the threshold is one small decision made in silence. The decision to stop speaking to yourself like an enemy. The decision to pause before reacting from fear. The decision to let one old pattern end without chasing it back. The decision to rest without guilt. The decision to trust one honest step before demanding the whole map. The decision to become a participant in your life, instead of only a witness to what happens to you. This is the difference between passive observation and conscious co-creation. The passive observer says, I will feel different when life changes. The co-creator says, I will begin relating to life differently now. The passive observer waits for permission. The co-creator practices presence. The passive observer measures every delay as failure. The co-creator asks, what is this season shaping in me? The passive observer believes the future is something that happens to them. The co-creator understands that the future is also shaped by attention, identity, action, trust, and response. This does not mean you control everything. You do not. Life will still surprise you. People will still make choices you cannot manage. Plans will still change. Pain will still visit. Uncertainty will still exist. But you are not powerless inside uncertainty. You can choose the state from which you meet it. You can choose not to abandon yourself. You can choose not to hand your peace to every passing circumstance. You can choose to return to your body, to your breath, to your values, to the quiet knowing that you are allowed to participate with life even before you feel completely ready. Because readiness is not the absence of fear. Readiness is the moment your soul becomes more devoted to truth than to survival patterns. It is when you say, "I may still be afraid, but I am no longer willing to let fear be the only author of my life." That sentence is a doorway, not because it fixes everything, but because it changes your relationship with everything. You begin to see that the life you desire is not built only through massive breakthroughs. It is built through repeated returns. Returning to trust after spiraling. Returning to gratitude after forgetting. Returning to your body after overthinking. Returning to honesty after performing. Returning to yourself after years of trying to become acceptable to everyone else. This is how a new beginning actually forms. Not all at once, not perfectly, but repeatedly. One small act of alignment at a time. And perhaps this is the most important thing to understand now. You do not need to wait until you are fully healed to begin. You do not need to wait until confidence is permanent. You do not need to wait until every wound has disappeared. You do not need to wait until no one misunderstands you. You do not need to wait until life finally feels safe in every direction. You can begin from here, with the breath you have, with the awareness you have, with the courage you have, with the imperfect, honest, human heart you have. This is enough for the first step. And the first step matters, because every time you choose differently, you confirm a new identity. Every time you pause before reacting, you confirm a new nervous system. Every time you receive something good without pushing it away, you confirm a new capacity. Every time you stop chasing what wounds you, you confirm a new standard. Every time you speak kindly to yourself, when the old voice would have attacked, you confirm a new relationship with your own soul. This is how the invisible becomes visible. This is how inner change becomes outer movement. This is how the book becomes life. The words were never meant to remain on the page. They were meant to become breath, choice, action, presence, a softer way of walking through the world, a quieter trust, a deeper gratitude, a willingness to stop gripping the old identity just because it feels familiar. So now, as this chapter closes, ask yourself gently, what is one thing I am ready to stop forcing? What is one truth I am ready to receive? What is one old story I no longer need to keep repeating? What is one small choice that would make me feel more aligned with the person I am becoming? Do not rush the answer. Let it rise slowly. Let it be simple. The soul rarely needs drama. It needs honesty. And if all you can say tonight is, "I am ready to see differently," that is enough. That is a beginning. That is the threshold. And once you cross it, life may still look the same for a while. The same room, the same responsibilities, the same unanswered questions. But something subtle will be different. You will be different. And when the one who sees changes, the world they are able to create with begins to change too. The book was never the destination. So perhaps this was never really about a book. Not only a book, not only a video, not only a sentence that arrived at the right time. Perhaps the book was simply a doorway, a mirror, a quiet invitation, a way for life to place your own truth back into your hands. And maybe tomorrow, everything will look ordinary. You may wake up in the same room, return to the same work, face the same unanswered questions, walk through the same world you knew before. But if something has changed inside you, then nothing is exactly the same. Because you are no longer only waiting for life to happen. You are listening, you are noticing, you are participating, you are remembering that the answers you seek do not always arrive by force. Sometimes they arrive when you soften, when you stop fighting the river, when you let gratitude become real, when you choose an identity that is no longer built only around fear, when you understand that the right book does not give you a soul, It reminds you that your soul has been here all along. So carry this gently. Do not turn it into pressure. Do not rush to become someone new by tomorrow morning. Just live one moment more honestly. Breathe one breath more deeply. Receive one small good thing without suspicion. Speak to yourself with 1 degree more kindness. And when life places another page before you, another conversation, another silence, another doorway, pause long enough to notice it. Because when the soul is ready, the book will show up. But the book was never the destination. You were. And perhaps now, with a quieter heart, with open hands, with a little more trust than before, you can finally say, I'm ready.